So, Claibs, we dropped off there a little bit as we were talking about Mizzou, and I mentioned, it seems like they are getting, the national ranking's nice. They're ranked 12th now in the country. Didn't really suffer at all in the rankings after losing to Georgia, but you're seeing more and more of those kind of primetime games too that they're getting. CBS wants to feature them at 2:30. Now they're getting a primetime game this next week, and I think that kind of speaks volumes to how this team right now is being viewed nationally.
Well, I think because it's a fun brand of football to watch too. I mean, what would you rather watch, Missouri at 3 o'clock or Penn State?
Right.
I mean, I think their brand of football, it's new, it's fun, it's diverse, with the good running game, and you got Luther Burden there. So I mean, you have all the things that I think that's what college football is looking for. And with this being CBS's last hurrah, I guess they want to go out with a bang.
So they have Florida coming up this weekend, a 6:30 game this Saturday back in Columbia, take on Florida, and they have a chance to beat Florida, beat Arkansas, be 10-2 going into bowl season. They won't be playing in the SEC championship game, but still a real good chance to play in one of the top bowls and get featured again here in January.
Well, anything is better than some of the ones they played in the last few years. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
So it's a plus for them. It's a plus for the program. It's certainly a plus for the conference to have so many teams from the SEC playing on New Year's Day or New Year's Eve. So, and not to mention probably having at least one team in the bowl championship series. So it's a good year for the SEC, and Missouri, I'm sure, happy to be part of it.
So we sit now. Big news out of the SEC this past weekend was Texas A&M firing Jimbo Fisher.
And
10-year
Mississippi
deal.
State got a guy that they should have never hired.
Yep, they and I that can't imagine that's the last firing that we're going to see out of the SEC this offseason. But let's talk about the Jimbo Fisher one, because the way that college athletics go about it, I don't know who started this scam that these guys are getting these buyouts. $76 million is what Jimbo Fisher is owed because they fired him.
But see, it's not that way in every state. I believe in Missouri, you get your base for this year and the following year, and that's it. You don't get all the other things that come with it. And we don't know all the things that went into Jimbo's contract that was guaranteed, whether it's a radio show, a TV show, clothing deal, attendance. There's a lot of things that go into it. I think those numbers might be inflated just a bit because I don't see how that could be a hard dollar deal. Most deals are not hard dollar deals, and I don't think this one is either. I think A&M has probably got some sort of rider in it where they really can't disclose what's going on. We don't know what the state laws are in Texas. So I would just be cautious in floating those numbers out there because I'm not sure if that's what he's going to eventually see. But then again, he's in a state with no taxes either.
And if you read into what has been reported on, this also, it's not affected if he takes another job next year too. So he could stack one deal on top of the other. He could take that Mississippi State job. He could take, Michigan's job if that opens up. I mean, he can take one of these jobs and still be collecting money from A&M, according to what has been reported on.
Yeah, no, and he could take a job on a desk for a TV network also.
Which I would imagine would be the best route to go, and just have very little stress and sit there in front of a TV until you become the hottest item again in coaching.
That's if you want to do it. I mean, Jimbo's he's no spring chicken. So you had to take that into account. But, I don't blame coaches for getting these sort of deals because it's such a volatile business. I mean, in the NFL, you get fired, you get your money. I mean, so I think it's one of those things where you have to be able to get it while you can. It didn't work for him, obviously, at A&M. And when they came after him, they came after him hard. But you know what? That's the price you pay. That's why they pay him all the money.
And if you are, I mean, right now they're 6-4. They just came off a huge
bowl
win
eligible.
over Mississippi State. I mean, a blowout win, not a huge win.
But you know what? I'm gonna tell you something, Joe. There had to be some underlying issues.
Right.
Seldom do you see a guy get fired after winning.
And they, who knows if they have a chance of beating LSU, but they were going to win again in the year. They were going to end up with 7 or 8 wins in the regular season. If you're another coach now looking at that, what are the expectations? for a team that has never made it to that has never been top of the won a national championship in Texas A&M. Like, what are the expectations if you could go out there and win 8 games, and they say, you know what, that's not good enough. We'd rather pay you $70 million than to have you coach our team.
That's the mindset of A&M. The A&M never recovered from when Jackie Sherrill was there, and Jackie Sherrill got caught cheating. They almost got the death penalty. They were severely hurt for a number of years. They'll always be the little brother of the University of Texas. And this is their way of trying to belly up to the bar and let everybody know that they think they're big time. They've turned out some individuals that have been very good, but overall as a team, they just haven't been able to produce what I think the expectations of their alumni are.
I'm just SEC specific. So you mentioned Mississippi State. They also have an opening there. That's not that's not a attractive landing spot. I mean, yeah, you're in the SEC, but
so is Vanderbilt.
Right. So Vanderbilt too. I mean, is that another one that we're going to see another opening there?
I don't think so. I think they'll stay patient there. I mean, everybody knows Vanderbilt's playing behind the 8 ball. But the A&M thing and Mississippi State thing, those teams think they can truly compete. And you know what? They do a good job of getting good players, but not enough of them. I'm trying to think, is there anybody else in the conference you think that could be in trouble?
I mean, Arkansas is 3-7, but their coach is in his first year, right? Or is he in his second year?
Okay. Or is he in his third year?
He already
Bielema was there Bielema was there before him. He replaced Bielema, right? Or no, he replaced Barry Odom. No. I'm sorry. He replaced Bielema.
Sam Pittman is the head coach, the current head coach of Arkansas, and he has had that job since 2020. So, I think he's out. He's going to be out too. If it's 2020 and they're playing the way they are, I think that's another opening.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're right. The patience that we have now with coaches is not what it used to be. First it's offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and then they get the coach. So there could be an opening there. But here's a question for you, though. Who are you replacing these guys with? I mean, you're replacing them with fledgling coordinators that come from a hot program, or you going out getting a guy with head coaching experience? I mean, there's so many things that go into this before you make the decision on who's going to be next to lead our program. And, I look at a guy like Willie Fritz, who's been around for a long time. He's 63 years old. I know his name's been mentioned a little bit, but the bottom line is he old enough to be able to relate? Some people thought that was a problem with Jimbo Fisher.
Yeah, and right now, I mean, Tulane is 9-1 on the year, so he's going to be real attractive going into the off season.
What about Matt Campbell up at Iowa State? I mean, there's a guy. Hey, I'll tell you another program. Well, that's a different conference. I don't know how not Hayden Fry. Kirk Ferentz keeps a job. They just annually disappoint the world. But that's another conference for another day.
Yeah,
but as far as the SEC is concerned, I don't think anyone else, because, they had that bloodletting a few years ago with Florida and South Carolina. Lane Kiffin comes in. There were some other programs that kind of right at their way. So I don't know if we're going to see a big turnover, but we know of at least two.
Yeah. The other one I went to look up real quick too. James Madison right now, they're 10-0 on the year. I would imagine
10-0 and nowhere to go.
Right. And that's, for a head coach, that's what you're looking at. You just you took a team to an undefeated, so that's another one.
We had a guy from Appalachian State that did that.
You're exactly right.
With somebody else's players.
Yeah. So it's, we'll see over the next few weeks. You're seeing these teams that are firing these guys right now, so they get the jump now on going out there and finding these new guys that once their season ends here in 2 weeks, they don't have to stick around for the Bowls. They don't care to stick around for the Bowls. They'll get a new job just in December and start looking at that and be on the sidelines with their new teams.
You know what's the most dangerous thing about that for the most guy who's in the most trouble is the coordinator who has to take over. He'll win that game if it's a bowl game. And then all of a sudden he thinks he should be in line for the job. A lot of times it just doesn't work. I mean, you think about sports. think about how many guys took over for a coach in midseason or whatever who was already there that went on to win. Now, I thought, well, hockey, you have Craig Berube when he took over. But, it normally doesn't work well, especially in football. I'm rooting for Antonio Pierce with the Raiders. But, the owners or the athletic directors, whatever, who does the hiring, they always look over your head because they see you every day and they don't know if you can do it. The players will be behind you until you piss them off, and then all of a sudden you have no friends.
Mm-hmm. We will we'll see how that plays out over the next few weeks. Let's take another short break. When we come back, we'll jump into the NFL discussion here on the Ameren Illinois Lunch Show with Claibs and Joe here on claibsonline.com.
Are you ready for a challenging and rewarding career? There are quality jobs in the construction industry.
I got out of college and my career choices were very limited, and this provided me with a plan for the present and the future at the same time.
I actually have a bachelor's degree in psychology, and I was making less than I make as a first-year apprentice painter.
I didn't go to college. I have no college debt. I make more money than the majority of people I know that went to college.
Take your first step towards a rewarding career. Visit stlouispdf.org.
Claibs, we saw week 10 of the NFL season come and go. Before we get into any of the actual games, we saw the second week of a game in Germany. I don't know if you saw the video of the way the roof comes on and off the field out there. That's some really just ingenious engineering that goes into that. That was really cool.
Yeah, I agree with you, but you have to think. At some point, American ingenuity is going to have to take a page out of the European playbook with regard to facilities. I know we were in London. That stadium didn't do anything to wow me, but I'm sure there are some stadiums where they're obviously soccer driven that have come up with a couple of wrinkles or two that might be pretty hip here in the States. And I think that's what we're looking at next, because I'm not sure, when you look at retractable roofs and luxury boxes and things of that nature, I don't know what the next step is going to be, especially the NFL, because that has turned into be the true TV sport, and you might want to build smaller than larger with regard to your facility.
Yeah, if only we would have given the country a good game for that second week.
I'm telling you, and I know we had 6 games decided by field goals, second field goal. I think the NFL is at an all-time low. It's hard to watch. It's very hard to watch. And is it good defenses or is it incompetent play on offense? I mean, like the Buffalo Bill game with Denver. I mean, Buffalo was like, no, you take it. We'd like for you guys to have the win. I mean, and they fire a coach over it, but I don't know if that's all coaching. And I think we see that more and more throughout the league. It's just a poorly played game. Maybe it's poorly coached. I don't know, but it's hard for me to watch an entire game.
You know what game shocked? I mean, when you looked at the schedule this past weekend, you would have thought that 49ers Jaguars would have been the game of the week. The way the Jaguars had been playing the last few weeks, the 49ers back to full health for the most part, you would have thought that would have been the best game. Lions Chargers, man, that game was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah.
And defense, might have been a little shaky on it, but watching those two teams go back and forth, for everything that I thought was wrong about Dan Campbell when he took the job up there in Detroit, he has got those guys playing behind him and playing really, really good football.
But you know what? Let's back up and talk about him for a second. Other than him saying he wants to bite the kneecaps off of people, I don't know where he's gone wrong. And I'll flip that coin the other way. The guy they hired in Philadelphia, whose press conference was not an embracing one, has got nothing but the best team in the league. So I think sometimes we run with the first impression. I think we have to look at the whole body of work. I think what Campbell has done, Brad Holmes, former Ram alum, as far as working in the front office there as an intern in the PR department, what they've been able to amass has been something fun to watch. And I think sometimes we just get a little carried away with those press conferences, because remember, most of these new head coaches have never had any legitimate media training because their head coach does all the talking.
Yeah.
And I think once you get under that light, it can be a game changer for a lot of people. And it's cost some guys their job. You might interview well, but you may not be a good interviewee when it comes to sitting in a room with lights and cameras and people who are going to ask you telling questions.
And and when you look at somebody who's had multiple chances, I mean, let's look at Josh McDaniels, a guy like that now who has come up and should have learned everything the right way under a coach like Bill Belichick, who was such a winner for so much of his career, and then they give him the chance in Denver.
Well, he doesn't learn anything media skill wise because Bill didn't have any.
He drops the ball in Denver after getting off to a decent start there. Then agrees to the Colts, backs out of the Colts, goes to Vegas. That ends poorly too. And I mean, is he going to get? Is he going to? He going to go back to New England? Is he going to get another chance? Like, what's next for Josh McDaniels?
No, I don't see that.
Just done.
I mean, you know what? He's just
done.
I mean, I guess the question is, what is he really? I mean, falling under the Brady umbrella, what has he really done?
Right. He won a few games with Tim Tebow as his quarterback.
A few, not enough to keep his job.
Right. Exactly.
So I think maybe he would have been a good play caller with a great quarterback.
You mentioned last night's Bills game. The Broncos win 24-22 over the Buffalo Bills. Bills now sit at 5-5 on the season, one Super Bowl contenders. I don't believe at the moment they are on the outside looking in of the playoffs. Same with the Cincinnati Bengals too. As you look at this, right? I mean, I know we talk about it every week, but I don't think there is a clear-cut overall favorite in that AFC right now.
I think Kansas City, because of their experience, you can't overlook. You know, Baltimore had a hiccup this week, but I think they're a team to be reckoned with because they can do a few more things on offense now. Their defense has been pretty solid, and they have the best kicker in the game.
Jacksonville's one too. That I want. Is it a hiccup? Are we back to seeing the 49ers just being so dominant and that's what happened? Or like which Jacksonville team did we see this past Sunday?
I think you saw a hell of a defense from the 49ers is what you saw. And isn't it interesting? You had the first pick in the draft in kid from Jacksonville.
Trevor Lawrence.
And you had the last guy in the draft.
Brock Purdy.
I mean, you got opposite ends of the spectrum, but it just goes to show you if you have the right weapons and a good team and really more of a good defense, you can be a pretty productive player in this league. The problem is there aren't enough of them because I think quarterback play and play calling is it's abominable. It is just so hard to get these guys to execute. And to me, the game is simpler to play. Now, you may have more things that complicate it, but I don't know. I haven't seen anything defensively that we wouldn't have seen 10 years ago or 15 years ago. And I blame the coaches more than anything else for outthinking themselves a lot of times.
The one guy that'll be real happy later on this week will be Howard Richards. His Dallas Cowboys looked really, really good.
Wait a minute.
Against the Giants.
What? How can who doesn't look good against the Giants? The Cowboys have almost scored 100 points against them in 2 games. So let's take that off the table.
Dak with another 400-yard passing game too. That is,
Joe, you could have 250 yards against the Giants. That is it. Oh, that might be the biggest train wreck in the NFL.
All right, then here, let me talk about this as far as impressive from the quarterback position. How about Josh Dobbs in Minnesota right now?
Doing a nice job, solid running game, and they're doing it out their best receiver. There's a team that really has come together. And I think one of the things about that team, the whole Kirk Cousins thing, for some reason, he's a distraction. And I don't know why. He's a decent player. But it just seems like everybody's rooting against him. But you know what I think they've done with Dobbs? They took a guy who was learning the playbook. They found a half a dozen, maybe 10 plays that they can use. He's just moving the tight end one side or the other and putting somebody in motion, and he's very comfortable with it. But the running game doesn't hurt them. I mean, that's the other thing you have in it. When in doubt, hand it off, man. And I think Minnesota could be a team that could be reckoned with down the stretch. I'm not going to tell you they can win the league or get to the Super Bowl or anything like that, but they're certainly a playoff contending team.
We will take a break here on Lunch with Claibs and Joe. But I don't even think I was able to get to my point earlier. I was going to say one person who should be happy with the Cowboys' victory would be Howard Richards, and we'll hear from him on Thursday at Huddle Up with Howard.
If the Cowboys have a good practice, Howard thinks, here we go.
Here we go. You took off with him last Thursday because you were traveling. I'm pretty sure I'm filling in for you again this Thursday. So let's not take shots at the man and then
hey, listen, he's my guy. What I'm saying now is something he's already heard. And we all have our favorite teams. I guess the difference between me and a lot of people, I don't have favorite teams anymore. I just like watching good teams play. Yeah, I didn't run out and buy a bunch of Kansas City Chiefs stuff. I don't have Tom Landry's hat tacked on my wall. I'm not that guy. I just like watching good teams play. And I'm not a fancy guy, so I don't have that ulterior motive either. If you go out and play the game well, I'm gonna say, hey, good job. But I'm not like, here we come, here we go. That's not me.
Okay. Well, we'll talk to him.
I'm a little different when it comes to that.
We'll talk. I mean, to be fair, I mean, he did play for him, so
he's got as much reason to root for him as anyone,
right?
And I respect that. I mean, he played for him, and it was a good player for them.
Exactly. So we'll hear from him on Thursday. Huddle Up with Howard comes your way each and every week here on Claibs Online. Take a break, wrap things up with a little baseball, a little hockey right here on the Ameren Illinois Lunch Show with Claibs and Joe, powered by Gray Bar, driven by Munganass St. Louis Acura here on Claibs Online.
Hi everybody, I'm Peter Munganass with Munganass St. Louis Acura, here to talk to you today about some benefits of Acura's certified pre-owned program. After passing a 182-point multi-point inspection, Acura backs all of our certified pre-owned cars with a 6-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty and a 7-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. Munganass St. Louis Acura has new inventory arriving daily. Come on into Munganass St. Louis Acura today, meet our award-winning team, and find that perfect certified pre-owned Acura for you.
Back here on the Ameren Illinois Lunch Show. And Claibs, yesterday you and I took a little field trip with the folks of Ameren, Illinois. If you remember, a few months ago, I went out there with them to see what it was like to be spend a day as a linesman. Yesterday, we learned more about gas leaks as folks are starting to turn their furnaces on, weather's getting a little colder, and some of the telltale signs to make sure that you are not in danger of a gas leak in your home.
I'm anxious for everybody, excuse me, to see our video here coming up here fairly soon, because I don't think people have an understanding of how effective or how natural gas and just the carbon monoxide can take a hold, and you could be in big trouble and not even know it. So it was very informative. I think it's something everybody will appreciate if you have gas in your home, and there are a lot of people. There's over 800,000 people in Southern Illinois that have gas appliances in their home. So it's one of those things that you probably ought to be paying attention to. And then maybe if you have electric, maybe you know someone with gas. And I think after you see what we were able to put together, you'll appreciate it, much like the fact that it may save someone's life down the road.
Claibs, let's wrap this up. Not a whole lot of baseball to talk about at the moment. The only team that has
we had some managers get hired. And,
I was going to say,
congratulations around Washington. Very deserving. I know that people, he's 71. Well, okay, he's 71. But Wash is out there every day working on infield drills for his guys, which is one of the reasons why Dansby Swanson won a Gold Glove. He's a really good baseball man. And I know that there were some other jobs that he had looked at before. And I think people kind of turned their back on him. But here's a guy who got to the World Series twice. Mm-hmm. He's one fly ball away from being a World Series champion. Yep. And, so he didn't forget anything. And I think Wash is going to do a nice job. I don't know what his team's going to look like, because I know Ohtani is going to look around and see what he wants to do. Hopefully he'll have a healthy Mike Trout and a Rondon. But, overall, I think he'll do a good job. And he's going to have a good staff out with the Angels as well. Stephen Volk is an interesting hire. I won't say he's Mike Matheny-like, but Volk paid attention to the game because he got a year of experience as coach, as far as a coach is concerned. But I think he'll do a good job in Cleveland. They've got some good young players. They just need a hair more pitching, and they could be fun to watch. And, with regard to Craig Counsell, obviously a shock to everybody that went down the way it did. It looks like Pat Murphy may end up with the job in Milwaukee.
Yep.
I'll tell you one thing. This division has just got a whole lot more spirited with some of the hires that have taken place. I think when you look at the managers, whether it's Ollie or David Bell or Derek Shelton, and the two hires that we just saw take place, this is going to be a pretty interesting division. And
Yeah,
there's going to be some guys going to flat out not like each other before this season. So forth, too.
I mean, it's one thing to go out there and get who you consider to be the best manager in baseball in Craig Counsell, but as of right now, I mean, the Cubs lost some pieces. The Cubs have to figure out who they lost. Bellinger right now. Bellinger is not a Chicago Cub. I mean, he's a free agent. Are they going to bring him back? And if they don't, are they going to replace him? And then you hear the rumors that the Cubs are going to be real aggressive on Shohei Ohtani. If that happens, Claibs, that flips the division upside down.
What happens if they trade for Pete Alonso?
Who are they trading away? And what else do they do to build around him? Is Pete Alonso just enough to put in the middle of that order? Yeah.
You got two Gold Glove infielders. You got Alonso. You got a pretty good outfield with Ian Happ and the center fielder whose name escapes me. I mean, I think they have a good
Christopher
nucleus.
Morel?
Yeah, who can play virtually anywhere.
Yeah.
I think they have a good nucleus.
Yeah.
They
just brought up Pete Crow Armstrong last year, their top prospect at the end of the year.
And, they may kick the tires on a third baseman. So this is a team you better be, when they say they're going to be aggressive, I don't see why they wouldn't, because they're a couple of pieces away from being legit. Pitching, it's still going to need some help. What staff doesn't need help? So, I still think Cincinnati might be the team we better all pay attention to in this division. But Chicago's certainly going to move up the ladder. I think the only team that will regress is Milwaukee. I mean, I think Pittsburgh's going to be better if they have a healthy O'Neal Cruz and they got a third baseman who won a Gold Glove. So, I mean, they've got some interesting pieces as well. So this division may go from worst to maybe not first, but certainly more competitive.
As we sit and wait for any kind of movement, whether it be trades or free agency, you mentioned all the managerial moves. Padres, the only team that has an opening. We've heard Mike Schilt's name.
We've been hearing Mike Schilt's name for the last 2.5 weeks. I don't know what's going on with that. It seems like they're interviewing everybody. Maybe they feel like they already know enough about Mike Schilt, and maybe they want somebody to change their mind on him. But, Mike Schilt certainly could be a good manager again. He was a good manager when he was here. And I think he'll be a good manager in San Diego. Now, what that team looks like after this offseason, who knows? Because apparently Hader's a free agent. You hear Soto's name mentioned a little bit. And there's some other players that you might want to move. So, and you have their left-handed pitcher who may be on the move as well. So that team, that team could have a very interesting look.
Claibs, let's end in hockey. I went to got out to the Blues game last Thursday night, ran into a few listeners, said that they've asking about the stuff that we do here on Claibs Online. Thursday night games. It's a fun night out at the at Enterprise Center, and saw one of the most exciting games of the season up until that point. Blues and Coyotes down to the wire there with a 2-1 win for the Blues, and then they go and score 8 goals in Colorado on Saturday.
When I saw the score on my phone, I thought it was a miscue. I mean, because the Blues hadn't even been competitive against Colorado the last few outings. And,
I just kept getting updates. Yeah. I just kept getting update after update after update that there were goals being
and you know what? I was a little surprised that Colorado didn't play a little bit more physical. They got a couple of guys in that team that are good scrappers. And I was a little surprised that once Colorado started to get embarrassed, they didn't want to send a message to the Blues. But that's the direction of the game now. Guys don't send messages. The guys don't do anything to fire their teammates up. But we'll take the 2 points and be thankful.
But the one thing that just stood out so abundantly clear on Thursday night, the power play was bad. 0 for 7 on Thursday night. At one point had 2 full minutes of 5-on-3 that they failed to do anything with. It was real bad. And I don't know what quick fix you make to that.
Well, you got to move your feet a little bit more. You have to have some people go to the net. And I think when you have your power play struggling, guys squeeze the stick a little tighter, maybe don't take the shot they need to, and then shoot when they shouldn't. There's a lot of things that go into it. But if you're good 5-on-5, you can weather the storm. And I think maybe what they have to do is kind of scale back on the tinkering. let them play. I think let them play at this point. I think that's something you got to have a more of a commitment to. But I'm not really worried about the power play at this time of the year. Let's give it a little bit more time.
Claibs, that's going to wrap up our show for today. As we mentioned, Howard Richards with Huddle Up with Howard later on this week. I believe Rammer and I are going to talk a little free agent baseball as well when we find the time this week. And, of course, Rammer and Rock have restarted. Two-man game for the third season. And Claibs, in just a matter of minutes, too, you are going to talk with comedian Greg Warren, St. Louis's own.
Looking forward to it
this weekend, and we'll get that up as soon as possible on the website as well. So lots of stuff coming your way here on Claibs Online all week long as we wrap up today's Ameren, Illinois Lunch Show, powered by Ameren and Gray Bar and driven by Munganass St. Louis Acura. He is Mike Claiborne. I'm Joe Roderick. We'll talk to you next time right here on ClaibsOnline.com.
There's always been a bright side to living in downstate Illinois. Ameren, Illinois is making it even brighter with a little help from the sun. Right now, we're building a next-generation solar facility to bring you cleaner energy for generations to come. It's good for the environment, your neighborhood, and everyone living in downstate Illinois. That's brighter thinking. That's energy at work. Learn how you can participate in solar programs